Hey, what's up, Street Talks? It's Eric from the Eric Street Photography blog. So, what I wanted to talk about today is the concept of how to become a photography teacher. I'm very fortunate that I've been able to teach photography more or less full time the last 5 or 6 years, and I'm not homeless yet. Fingers crossed. And so, for those of you guys out there who have a passion for teaching or want to get more interested in teaching, hopefully in this video I'll share you guys some practical tips or tricks I personally learned that could help you on your personal journey. So the first question you want to ask yourself is, why do I want to become a photography teacher? For me, I'm a natural extrovert. That's just how I was kind of raised. I always love people. I love interacting with people. I love empowering other people. And honestly, for me, the legacy I want to leave behind myself isn't that Eric Kim was the world's best photographer, but I want to have to let other people remember me as Eric Kim was the most passionate, the most compassionate, the most loving, and the most enthusiastic teacher. And I think anyone could become a teacher. And one of the good things about becoming a photography teacher nowadays is that the world of photography has totally changed the last 5 or 10 years, especially with digital photography. Nowadays, anyone with an iPhone is a photographer because they can make photos and images easily. Maybe 10, 20 years ago, you could make a living from selling prints, doing a lot more commercial work. But nowadays, a lot of the photographers I know are really, really struggling. And on the flip side, this is a good opportunity for photography teachers because now there's hundreds and thousands and millions of photographers who are beginners and are eager to learn more how to use their camera, to make images, and find some sort of personal satisfaction in their photography. So I think the market for photography education is huge now. I know tons of photographers who used to make a living shooting for newspapers and stuff have actually transitioned into teaching. And my personal story of how I got into teaching was I've always been passionate about teaching. I used to tutor other kids when I was in high school. Even when I was in college, I studied sociology. My dream was to become a sociology professor. And one thing led to another, ended up getting a job in internet marketing, which kind of helped me in hindsight, is that I learned more about blogging, YouTube, and so forth. And the way I taught my first street photography workshop was purely by accident. I got contacted by my friend Lorin from Beirut, Lebanon, saw some of my blog posts, said, "Oh, would you like to come to not Istanbul, to Beirut to teach a street photography workshop?" And at the time, I didn't know you could teach street photography. It was kind of a new concept, and there was really no one else teaching street photography workshops at the time. And of course, I was totally down because I wanted to go to Beirut. And once I went there, essentially what I learned was focus less about the actual teaching. Think of yourself as an enabler or somebody who's a facilitator, that you're not telling other students how to take photos per se. You're just trying to help other students find their voice to build their personal confidence, help them discover what interests them about photography. One of the things I don't like in teaching is when the teacher acts like they're the pinnacle of knowledge and this is what you should do, this is what you shouldn't do, this is what's right and this is what's wrong. I think the great teachers are the ones who are humble, the ones that stay beginners, and they realize they can learn from their students as much as the students learn from them. In terms of practical logistical stuff, let's say if you want to become a photography teacher, of course there's a traditional route like getting your MFA or going to art school, end up teaching in a college. What I think nowadays is a lot better is to become a teacher either by blogging, sharing tips, practical techniques, ways to information that could empower other photographers, starting your own YouTube channel like I'm kind of doing right now, because you have lots of interesting views on photography that you want to share with the rest of the world. Or three, what I do to make a living is to teach photography workshops, and about 90-95% of my income comes from teaching photography workshops. The most difficult thing, honestly, with teaching a photography workshop is just getting people to sign up. And before people sign up and spend good money to attend your workshop, you need some sort of legitimacy, you need some sort of sense of trust. That often comes with building up an audience. So most of the people who attend my street photography workshops have followed me on my blog or YouTube or other social media channels for at least a year or 2 years. So know that the process is very gradual. If you currently have a full-time job, my suggestion is if you've never taught a street photography workshop or any photography workshop before, offer a free photography workshop. Offer to volunteer your time to a local school, inner city schools where they don't have that kind of opportunity. Even teaching your mom, your dad, your friends. And logistically, what I do for the workshops, my friend and my manager Neil helps me find a venue. Let's say it's a 2-day workshops, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. We'll rent the venue for the weekend and charge students a certain amount for the workshop. And generally what I do in terms of logistics is 10 to 10:30. It's kind of introduction, people getting to know each other, doing icebreakers, and know that doing a photography workshop, it's so much of a social experiment, not social experiment, a social experience that photographers love to meet other photographers, and we're human beings, we're social creatures. So don't skip on that. Let people introduce themselves, where they're from, why they're passionate about photography, and give them about 30 minutes to do that. In terms of in classroom lecture time, try not to do it longer than like an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours tops, because I don't know about you, when I'm stuck in a classroom all day, I just get so bored. I think what's the most important thing in a photography workshop is to go out and actually shoot photos. So we'll have a quick lunch from like 12 to 12:30, like grab a quick sandwich or a pasta or a salad. And generally from around 1 o'clock to 6 o'clock, about 5 hours of shooting time. And what I try to do is treat it like office hours where I'll pair off the students, and for each hour, I'll shoot with the student for an entire hour. And I think the one-on-one time is very important because you could address their certain concerns about camera settings, you can work on certain techniques. A lot of my workshops about building your confidence and fear, overcoming your fears, approaching strangers. You could teach your students that. And ultimately, I think it's about being patient. It's about not being too overly dogmatic about what you to do and what not to do. Maybe you're walking with a student and say, oh, this is why I find it interesting. I love the light here, I love the diagonals, the composition, all these people walking. What I might do is crouch down, take it from this perspective, take photos with your own camera, show them the LCD screen, kind of demonstrate how you might do it. If you're to do like a portrait workshop, once again, always start off by demonstrating it in person and then encouraging your students to try, because if you're just doing everything yourself and expect your students to take notes, it's just not as fun and engaging. Usually on Sunday morning, we'll meet 10 to 12, shoot a little bit more in the morning, grab a quick lunch and some coffee. And the rest of the time, I'll use some, students bust out their laptops, and from around 1 to 3 o'clock-ish, we're working in Lightroom, choosing our best images over the last 2 days. And then the final time is the critique time, where each student chooses their best 1 to 3 images. We put them on a projector or an LCD screen, and we give honest feedback and critique for all the students. And I think that's probably one of the most valuable times for the students to reflect on the images and to realize what works, what doesn't work. And I think as an instructor, you need to be a good facilitator. Is if none of your students are giving feedback or critiques, you need to be the one who asks leading questions. Like, for example, you could look at a student's photo and say, oh, guys, what are the details you like about the shot? What are details you don't like about the shot? Are there interesting colors or gestures or figures you find in the background? What could be used to improve this photograph in the future? And ultimately, I think a workshop is, once again, about empowerment, about inspiration, about building a community of other photographers, of meeting other photographers within your certain genre. And as a teacher, I don't think it's ever possible to be a perfect teacher, but one thing that you cannot fake and you shouldn't fake is enthusiasm, passion, and your love. I think ultimately, as long as you show compassion and care for your students, and you kind of treat them like your children, like you give them attention, you're not rushed with them, you're patient with them and kind, that's the best you could do as a photography teacher. And at the end of the day, just know that, as a teacher, and trust me, I'm totally guilty of this myself, is once you become more experienced, you become so big-headed, you think you know all the answers. Always try to stay humble. Always remember that you're not necessarily any better or smarter than your students. What your skill is to help enable your students, to help them find their voice. And like all the great kung fu masters, they're not the ones teaching them the particular punches and kicks. It's more of a mental thing. And remember that in photography, it comes down to a personal journey where you're making photos to please yourself, not to please your audience. And as long as you empower your students, that's what's going to be most memorable to them. And don't forget to drink lots of coffee. My personal is double shots of espresso, single origin if preferable. But so some practical tips about teaching. I'll hopefully make some more of these kind of videos that are more instructional in nature in the future. Thank you so much for watching. Until then, be patient, be loving, kind, and know that teaching is all from the heart. Okay, until next time, guys. Peace out.